When you think Brazil,
Mm.
probably the first things that pop up are, the beaches, Carnival, maybe Rio.
Sure, the iconic stuff.
Exactly. But Brazil is just, it's huge, continent-sized, really. And there's so much regional diversity that, well, most people outside Brazil never really see.
Absolutely. It goes way beyond the stereotypes.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into 3 states that really challenge those images: Acre, Mato Grosso, and Tocantins.
Less famous, maybe, but incredibly fascinating.
Definitely. They're these vibrant heartlands of culture, history, nature. And our mission here is to pull out the key insights from some really detailed research notes we have.
Yeah, help you get a quick, solid understanding of what makes these places tick.
Right, so you feel well informed about parts of Brazil you might never have even thought about. Get ready for some, hopefully, surprising facts, some aha moments.
Should be good.
Okay, let's kick things off with Acre. Now, this is a state that, even within Brazil, sometimes gets jokes made about it, like, does it even exist?
Yeah, that old meme.
But reading through the notes, I was really struck by how powerful its cultural identity feels. What makes Acre such a unique mix?
It really is a fascinating place. Acre is this kind of melting pot. You've got indigenous roots, strong Amazonian identity, but also influences from Peru, Bolivia, even northeastern Brazil drifting in.
Okay.
And you see it so clearly with the indigenous tribes there. There's Ashaninka, Hunikun, Yawanawa, Shinanawa. There are others too.
Right.
Each has this incredibly vibrant art, their own styles of body painting, deep spiritual traditions. And it's not just that they exist side by side. These cultures are actively shaping this distinct Acrean, Amazonian identity.
And it's not only the indigenous cultures, is it? I found stuff about ayahuasca culture and Sansamani really interesting.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of it.
These syncretic religions mixing Christianity, indigenous knowledge, Amazonian ritual. How have they created this unique spiritual resilience there?
Well, that's where you see those deep roots, These spiritual traditions, they're so tied to the forest. They've become these really powerful cultural anchors.
Mhm.
Storytelling, oral history, the whole cosmology of the Amazon, it's central to how people in Acre see the world. It's kind of a counter narrative to outside pressures. That spiritual depth really sets it apart.
And the history. Wow. That story of struggle in Acre is pretty intense. Originally part of Bolivia, right?
That's right.
And then annexed after the Acre War, 1899 and 1903. How did that fight, led by rubber tappers like Placido de Castro, forge this unique identity?
It's a huge part of their story, a narrative of self-determination. The Acre War was basically these rubber tappers and settlers saying, no, this is our land, pushing back against Bolivian control.
Right.
That struggle is just baked into the state's identity. It eventually became a state in 1962. It created this population that's fiercely proud of its autonomy, its connection to the land.
And that fight didn't stop there, did it?
Yeah.
Chico Mendes.
Exactly. Chico Mendes. His story took that fight to a global stage in the 80s.
Defending the Amazon, rubber tapper rights.
Yeah.
Before his assassination in '88.
Yeah.
Such a powerful symbol of environmentalism, but also martyrdom. That persistence feels so deeply woven into Acre.
It absolutely is. And what's fascinating, I think, is how that history of struggle, from the Acre War right through to Chico Mendes, it hasn't just shaped their identity, but their actual cultural output, their day-to-day traditions.
Okay, yeah.
It raises that question, doesn't it? How do these really deep roots show up in everyday life, in the festivals, the traditions you see there?
So how does it manifest? What are some of those traditions that really showcase that Acrean identity today?
Oh, it's everywhere. You've got popular traditions like the Festival Divino Espirito Santo, especially in the rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the indigenous festivals are just incredible. Ritual dances, chanting, the body painting is often really elaborate. Ceremonies using herbal medicine. They're really immersive. And the Santa Dame works, their ceremonies, they use these sacred songs, high nose, along with ayahuasca. It creates this really profound spiritual experience that's very specific to the region.
Even the food sounds quite distinct. I mean, tapioca, pato no tucupi, those are Amazonian staples, yeah.
They are, yes.
But the acai, the notes mentioned it served completely differently, not the sweet smoothie bowl we often see.
Right. Forget the smoothie bowl.
But with fish.
Yeah.
Or cassava flour, or maybe just sugar. That's a real aha moment.
Totally. It shows that deeper connection to the local river culture, the local foodways.
Yeah.
And the clothing is similar. Practical light cotton, straw hats are common.
Makes sense in the heat.
Exactly. But you also see indigenous styles, beaded jewelry, face paint, feather headdresses for ceremonies. And for Santo Dame, specific white clothing. It's all about comfort, function, and cultural expression.
And that local pride.
Mm.
It even comes through in pop culture and slang. I heard about the jokes, the doe's acre exist,
Yeah.
memes.
Yeah, they know all about those.
But apparently locals just reclaim it with
Yeah.
pride and irony.
They absolutely do. They lean into it. You hear phrases like, Aqui a floresta fala. Here, the forest speaks.
Love that.
Or, O acre longe, mas é real. Acre is far, but it's real. It's this testament to their strong sense of place. Like, yeah, we're remote, but we matter. We're distinct.
So summing up Acre, it's really this place where history, nature, culture are just inseparable. A powerful story of resilience, identity, right from the Amazonian frontier.
That captures it well, I think. A unique voice.
Okay, let's shift gears. Moving from the deep Amazon, let's head to Mato Grosso, known as O Coração do Brasil, the heart of Brazil. And its geography really jumped out at me. Where exactly does Mato Grosso sit in Brazil's ecological map?
It's genuinely unique, a natural crossroads. Mato Grosso is where three huge, iconic ecosystems actually meet: the Amazon rainforest to the north,
Okay.
the Cerrado, which is this vast tropical savanna, and the Pantanal.
Ah, the Pantanal. Heard so much about it.
Yeah, it's the world's largest tropical wetland, just an absolute haven for biodiversity. And what's really profound is that this meeting of biomes creates these unique overlaps, migration routes for animals. You just don't find that combination anywhere else.
What kind of animals are we talking about? Must be pretty spectacular.
Oh, it is. It really is. You've got significant populations of jaguars, the onça pintada, giant otters, the tuayu, that huge, iconic jabiru stork.
Right, I've seen pictures.
Anacondas, tapirs, loads of caiman. It's just teeming. And beyond the wildlife, you've got Cuiabá, the capital, which gives you the urban side, and places like Chapada dos Guimarães. Amazing. Red cliffs, waterfalls.
And isn't there a marker for the geographic center of South America there?
That's the spot, yeah.
So connecting this back, Mato Grosso really represents Brazil's immense natural wealth, this complex dance between different biomes. But the culture is just as rich, right?
Definitely. Just as layered.
How did the history, colonization for gold mining, the Paraguayan War shape, that mix of indigenous, Portuguese, African, even Paraguayan influences?
Well, its history is absolutely key. Mato Grosso was this frontier zone during colonial times, driven by the gold rush.
Right.
That brought in Portuguese settlers, but also vast numbers of enslaved Africans. Their descendants formed Quilombola communities, which are still important today. But remember, there were already over 40 indigenous groups living there.
Wow, 40.
Yeah. Then the Paraguayan War in the 19th century also left a big mark, shifting borders and populations. More recently, it became central to Brazil's agribusiness boom. So all these layers created this resilient culture, deeply tied to the land and its resources, whether that was gold, cattle, or now soy.
It really sounds like a place where the land defines the people. I remember that Pantanal soap opera. It completely romanticized the region, didn't it? It showed how tied the culture is to that environment.
It really did capture something, and you see that connection in their traditions.
Like what are some examples?
Well, the Festa de São Benedito is huge. It's this powerful Afro-Brazilian religious festival in Cuiabá, full of maracatu music, tambour drums, really vibrant. Then you have Siri and Kuru. These are traditional folk dances with indigenous and Portuguese roots. Sometimes they involve these rhythmic poetry battles, sort of like a folk rap battle.
Cool.
And you absolutely have to mention the Crema do Alho.
What's that?
It's this unique cowboy-style cooking tradition, comes straight from the Pantanal cowboy culture. It's all about cooking, outdoors, specific recipes, very tied to the cattle ranching heritage.
And the food, like mojica de pintado, that fish stew with cassava or Maria Isabel, the rice with sun-dried beef. It speaks to that connection, too.
Exactly, using local ingredients, reflecting the landscape. And yeah, the cowboy hats, the boots, the jeans in rural Mato Grosso, that's not just fashion, it's practically a uniform.
Yeah.
It signifies that Cantonero identity.
Okay, fascinating. So for our last stop, let's head to Tocantins, Brazil's youngest state.
That's right, the newcomer.
But what's really interesting is, despite being so new officially, it apparently has these incredibly deep historical roots stretching back centuries.
It's a really compelling contrast, isn't it? Tocantins was officially created in 1988. It was split off from the much larger state of Goiás,
Why was that?
mainly for better representation for that northern region and to kind of spur its own development. And its capital, Palmas, is actually Brazil's newest planned capital city.
Planned, like Brasilia.
Sort of, yeah. Inaugurated in 1989, it's known for this modernist design, and it has the Praça do Girassol Sunflower Square, which is supposedly one of the biggest public squares in the world.
Yeah.
But that raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? How does a state that's so recently created, with a planned modern capital, manage to hold on to and celebrate these ancient traditions and identities?
That's exactly what I was wondering. How do they balance that? The brand new state and these ancient roots, what's that dynamic like?
It seems to be working as this vibrant cultural crossroads. You've got really strong indigenous presences. The Carajá, Javai, Zarente peoples are very prominent there, but also big influences from northeastern Brazil, from the Cerrado culture itself, and even some Amazonian elements bleeding in. And they actively celebrate traditions that blend these influences.
Such as?
Things like the Folia do Divino, which is a Catholic folk celebration you see elsewhere too, but also cavalhadas, these amazing medieval-inspired horseback reenactments.
Seriously. Medieval.
Yeah, it's quite a spectacle. And Bumba Meu Boi, which is this joyful sort of folk dance theater tradition found in other parts of Brazil too, but with its own local flavor. These aren't just museum pieces, they're living traditions woven into the state's current identity.
And Tocantins also has some incredible nature, right? I was reading about Jalapão,
Ah, Jalapão, yes.
the sand dunes and these things called fervedoros, these natural springs where you just
Ugh,
float.
them, yeah. The water pressure from below buoys you up. It's an amazing feeling. Jalapão is really unique. Golden grass landscapes, waterfalls, those clear springs, the dunes. It feels almost otherworldly, quite untouched.
Sounds incredible.
It really is. And beyond Jalapão, you've got the huge Tocantins and Araguaia rivers, which are vital for transport and fishing. And Ilha do Bananal, inside the state on the Araguaia River, it's the largest river island in the
It's
world.
the largest in the world.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
So these natural features are absolutely central to life and culture there.
And the local pride comes through too.
Yeah.
In the slang, the mottos.
Oh, yeah. You hear accente a lot, which is actually borrowed from the Northeast, showing that migration influence.
Right.
And there's a great phrase, erosa mase noi, which is kind of tongue-in-cheek, proud, means something like, it might be rural off the sticks, but it's us.
Huh. I like that.
And the official state motto is pretty ambitious, Tocantins. Brasil que dá certo. Tocantins, Brazil that works.
Projecting confidence.
Exactly. It sums up that forward-looking yet deeply rooted identity. That mix you mentioned, planned modern capital, ancient indigenous traditions, stunning nature like Jalapão. It really makes Tocantins this fascinating microcosm of Brazil's whole dynamic identity.
So wow, just like that, we've kind of whisked through 3 of Brazil's, well, often hidden gems.
Quite a journey.
Yeah, we started in Acre, that bastion of Amazonian culture, environmental struggle, shaped by its frontier past and deep indigenous roots.
Strong identity there.
Then we swung down to Mato Grosso, where those 3 massive biomes crashed together, creating this rich cultural mix from gold rush days to modern cowboy life.
The heartland. Yeah.
And we finished in Tocantins, the youngest state, building its future, but doing it on this foundation of ancient traditions and just breathtaking natural beauty.
It really shows there's so much more to Brazil than the headlines, doesn't it?
It really does. These deep dives, they reveal a Brazil that's far more complex, much more captivating than just the famous coastal cities or the usual tourist spots.
Hopefully you've now got a bit of a shortcut, to understanding the vibrant, diverse heart of this incredible country, a better feel for its hidden corners.
Definitely. So it leaves you thinking, what does it really mean for a country to be made up of such distinct, proud, often overlooked regional identities like these?
That's a great question.
Consider how the unique voice of each place, like Acres Forest, literally speaking, or Mato Grosso's landscape, setting the terms, how that shapes the bigger story of Brazil. And it makes you wonder, what other hidden gems, what other stories are out there waiting to be uncovered that could change how we see a place?